Hi guys, thanks for taking the time to check out my video. Originally, when I first planned to make this, I wanted to talk about PvP in its entirety and really analyse how things have changed over the years, talk about how we have got to where we are, what we need from Jagex, how we are partially to blame for the position we are in, and multiple ideas that I believe could combat the different problems. But when I began composing the different ideas and how I was going to express them, it was clear the video was going to be far too long. So I made the decision to talk about an opening concept and highlight the different things I may go on to talk about in other videos if this video is well received. Also, just speaking about this one concept enables me to talk in far more detail while keeping the video relatively short. Some of the topics I was going to discuss in the original video were the current meta and the barrier to entry for PKing, where have things gone wrong in the past and why, how do we make clan wars more appealing, because this is really important fundamentally for the growth of clanning and PvP. How do we replicate the competitive landscapes that have been achieved on other platforms? How can we combat the toxic nature of PvP, things like ragging and one-iteming? How do we make the wilderness more active? How do we make the first step into the wilderness less daunting? How do we make any changes appealing to the solo PKer and or content creators? What updates can revitalise the risk-reward feeling the players love? Is it possible to gain further access to the untapped, retired or quit PvP player base? How do we go about implementing something for everyone without segregating people? And maybe most importantly, how do we offer a PvP update that the anti-PvP community can get behind? So guys, the first idea I'm going to talk about is what I've labelled the reinvention of PvP worlds, which I'm codenaming Skullator. And what this mainly does is tackles wilderness activity. Before I get into that though, I think the obvious thing to point out is that to increase activity, the wilderness needs to be accessible in less worlds, and expanding that accessibility should come with demand. Now, this is thought to be unachievable because it would make wildy bossing even harder and would make players who do not enjoy the wilderness even less unhappy. But as the idea of promoting wilderness activity with PVM hotspots has been ineffective, a trade-off would be, if the proposed update was implemented, that these bosses could be moved elsewhere, which may then offer a PvP update everyone could get behind. I should also mention that my proposal for these new PvP worlds would be for them to become the new wilderness and for the existing PvP worlds to be removed. This would eradicate things like PKing at the Grand Exchange, which is terrible for the wilderness, and not simply because it takes people out of it. So let's get into my proposal for the reinvention of PvP worlds, or Skullator. The idea behind this is making these worlds centred around wilderness activity and PKing, making them a hub for the PvP community, but not implementing content that forces people who do not want to be in the wilderness into the wilderness, and implementing something content creators would enjoy and people would like to watch. The idea really just encompasses features that we have already experienced if you have played the game since the release of RS2. This includes things like loot keys, EP, PvP armor, statue drops, and the BH creators can't leave penalties, with some additional twists and content to spice it up. So when being in the wilderness in these PvP worlds, you will gain EP or earning potential. And higher EP increases the chance of you receiving a loot key when killing another player. However, to gain EP or receive a loot key when killing someone, you must be risking 4,000 times your combat level. So as a basic example, if you were 100 combat, you would have to be risking 400k. This is an additional soft fix to combat ragging, one-iteming, and even people trying to fight unskulled with minimal risk. It also means the average minimum PK to combat level is rewarding. Your EP will increase faster the deeper you are in the wilderness. There are 5 different loot keys: brown, white, green, blue and red, just like the old BH skulls from Bounty Hunter. Brown keys give you a 500k statue and award 5 BH points. White keys give a 1 mil statue and award 10 BH points. Green keys, a 2.5 mil statue and award 15 points. Blue keys, a 5 mil statue and award 20 points. Finally, the red keys additionally give you a 5 mil statue and a further 25 BH points, but have a 1 in 6 chance of rolling a piece of the historic PvP armor like Vesta and Statius. When a player picks up a key, they become both tele-blocked and cannot leave the wilderness for 180 seconds. When logged out, the timer simply pauses, and once picked up, the key cannot be dropped to remove the penalty. Equally, keys cannot be traded or protected on death. The key will remain on the ground for 2 minutes, so there is an opportunity to bank your gear and select a new setup to tank the penalty. However, once you pick up the key, a skull will appear above your head in the colour of the key you have received, indicating to everyone that sees you that you cannot leave the wilderness and what key you have. The cannot leave penalty is a great counter for anyone trying to abuse the EP/loot key mechanics to make fast GP. Additionally, if you log out of a PvP world with a key, the only worlds you will be able to re-log into are other PvP worlds. Once you've managed to get your key out of the wilderness, a chest will be available in Edgeville to collect your prizes. When unlocking the chest, you will be offered the chance to risk your existing key and 250k of your own cash to upgrade the key to the one above it. This can only be done once. If you are successful, you cannot roll again. Equally, if you are unsuccessful, you will lose both the key and your cash. I like this touch because it offers a small money sink while providing an additional risk-reward factor. Next to the rewards chest, you will find an NPC called Skullator. He is willing to purchase your statues as they cannot be traded with players. He will also allow you to spend your BH points on unique items like new teleport tabs to Chaos Dwarves, New Gate, East Dragons, Wilderness Agility Course, West Dragons and Mage Bank, all of which are untradeable and disintegrate if on you when you die. Additionally, they can only be used in PvP worlds. The PvP armor rewards will be tradable, but will degrade once used and no longer tradable as they were previously. Skullator also possesses the Skull Hunter Talisman. He will sell this to you for 25 BH points and 15 million GP worth of statues. This item is untradeable and if lost on death would reward the killing player with a red key. It would hold a value of 15 million GP, so it protects over items accordingly, despite being untradeable. It is possible when killing a player for the Skull Hunter Talisman that you could receive 2 keys, one for the talisman and one as a kill reward. If this happens, your skull colour will match the highest placing key and your cannot leave penalty would remain the same. The Skull Hunter Talisman comes with 3 perks. Perk 1 allows you to select what type of skull you want to hunt, and then when clicking the talisman will tell you what direction to go to find the closest player to you with said skull. Perk 2 enables you to send 1 key per day straight to your bank, thus enabling you to exit the wilderness without a cannot leave penalty. Perk 3. This is a light fix to combat the idea of people trying to box to survive the cannot leave penalty. The talisman has a mark option. So if a player is attacking someone with a skull in a single area that has not been marked, using the mark feature means the player with the Skull Hunter Talisman gets priority on attacking the player, and while attacking that player, he cannot be PJ'd. Once a player has marked someone, they cannot be marked by someone else with another talisman, unless they were to log out, and obviously leaving the wilderness would end the marked phase. Additionally, when a player is marked, there is a 3-second delay before the player that possesses the talisman can attack. This prevents people abusing the mechanic in single and stacking specs together, etc. Skullator encourages those willing to hunt for keys and every hour will let you know what area of the wilderness has become a hotspot. This will appear in your text feed if you're in the wilderness, or you can right click Skullator and click hotspot to get the location prior to entering. Hotspots are traditional popular PKing locations like Edgeville, East Drags, Greater Demons, 50 Ports and Mage Bank, etc. Killing players in those hotspots increase the chances of you receiving a key. Skullator has one more thing to offer, and when paired with the new teleport tabs, create new ways to make money when not PKing, or you can do both. Each perk requires 50 BH points to unlock, and they are as follows. All NPCs within the wilderness now have the chance of dropping a random key. The drop rate of said key would depend on both your EP and on the NPC you choose to kill. If you receive a key from an NPC, the cannot leave penalties still apply. All green dragon drops in the wilderness now come in noted form when in the PvP worlds, with the chance to receive 100 noted dragon bones at once at a drop rate of 1 in 250. Final perk is Skull Key Telly. If you have opted to bank before collecting your key and restocking on supplies, or even died in multi, for example, this perk enables you to teleport back to the key location instantly by right-clicking Skullator and clicking the teleport option. So guys, the thing to point out with this idea is this is just an opening concept. This idea was quickly sparked by me wanting to talk and offer ideas on about the history of PvP, and was put together in one evening. So there are going to be things I have not considered. Naturally, everything could be tweaked. I didn't mention it in the video, but to be clear, this is not an alternative game mode like Deadman mode. This concept would be integrated into the main game and become what we would know as the New Wilderness. Other things to mention that I did not touch on but would need to be considered are: the Skull Hunter Talisman would only hunt players that are in a wilderness level and of the combat level you could attack. How the teleblock feature would work with the existing cannot leave penalty function would have to be considered. My solution would be that a half TB is not possible at any time during a cannot leave penalty. However, a full TB would add an additional 2 minutes regardless of what time the TB was casted during the penalty. But they could now exit the wilderness normally. If the penalty is ended, both TB mechanics would now act as normal. When having a key in your invent, the logout mechanics of Deadman mode would most likely make sense, meaning you can't just pick up a key and log out, etc. With the EP mechanic, regardless of the key you receive, your EP would drop to 0. And from an economic standpoint, the rewards would need to be analysed correctly, and I'm sure we could think of more PvP enhancements to add to the VH Point reward shop. So guys, one thing that sparked me wanting to talk about PvP, and eventually leading me to creating this overall concept, was the fact that Boaty and Abyss Arrow have recently released videos talking about why the Wilderness cannot be revived, and Wilderness 2. And in both those videos there are things I agree and disagree with. Personally, I do not like the Wilderness 2 type of update, firstly because it increases the size of an already inactive wilderness. Additionally, this new area is mainly designed to encourage those who may not enter the wilderness to enter. And these are not updates people get behind, and the activity increase is notoriously short-lived and ends up with the people forced into the wilderness hating it while holding a grudge, and the PvP player base not gaining a lot for it. Now, one thing Boaty touches on in his video is Lambs to the Slaughter, and the fact that if you enter the wilderness, you are coming up against very experienced players who can flick, play around tick mechanics, stack hits, and combo food, etc. Which I completely agree with. There is no wilderness environment where you can exist in this pre-educated meta and just have fun with PKing, almost like a casual mode you would experience on an FPS, which is something I want to discuss a solution for in another video. But the idea behind Skullator is firstly to create an active wilderness-based environment without these Force or PVM bait updates, and an update where the players believe the wilderness is active. Because this is a big reason, especially for the older player base, why PKing is less attractive. Back in the day, firstly the wilderness was extremely active, but it was also just a fun environment to be in. You were walking around, normally risking a decent percentage of your bank, knowing anywhere in the wilderness, anything could happen. So the experience made you more patient, where now people don't want to hunt for long periods of time for the prospect of action. And I believe the Skullator concept tackles the risk-reward feeling, promotes activity, creates this new PvP dynamic and offers a new way for the wilderness to be lucrative. Because if I quickly try to break the overall idea down, if it was working as planned, firstly, 1v1 PK in an edge-like format would be occurring at Edgeville, not the Grand Exchange, which means these players are in the wilderness and may explore different areas of the wilderness because they're not segregated. You could have players simply fighting where they like to fight with the aim to gain EP and receive different drops. People could be doing agility while gaining EP. They could be in an EPDD, which was common back in 2009, where groups would hang out together, be gaining EP, and attacking anyone that came their way. With the perk unlocked, people could be killing basic monsters across the wilderness, gaining EP and hoping for a random key drop. They could be killing dragons for bones and for the chance of a key. All the new teleports make accessing all the different areas of the wilderness easy, therefore making everywhere feel that less safe. The overall accessibility of the wilderness, hotspots, and the cannot leave penalty element really adds to the risk and feeling of being hunted aspect, especially with the talisman. Someone could get a kill at Edgeville and people see, and then they get hunted, but equally the person who kills that person then becomes a target. People across the wilderness have a chance to get keys, so PKing everywhere makes sense, because hiding everywhere makes sense. The minimum risk means that most kills themselves are a decent PK. The hotspots invite people to explore different areas of the wilderness. The additional money to be made from keys and PvP armor drops add an element of excitement and reward from PKing. The overall experience, new ways to return, new items and concept adds a new dynamic to how to operate in the wilderness, both individually and as a group. I also think the overall concept offers a fun environment for content creators, adding this almost battle royale-like concept for viewers. And hopefully, with all that in mind, people have liked the idea of the Skullator concept. If you've got this far, I really appreciate you watching. This is clearly my first video, and if you can't tell, the audio was recorded with AirPods. If you did like this idea and would like to see something like this in the game, I've linked both a Reddit post and tweet below for you to upvote, retweet, and show support. Please share with your friends, and if you have opinions or questions, I want to hear them, so reply in the comments, or send me a message on Twitter. Equally, if you'd like to see more videos regarding PvP and some further content ideas for myself with a better microphone, drop the video a like and a cheeky subscribe. And finally guys, if you haven't seen it yet and like sharing small clips or celebrating your achievements, drops and things like that, talk about your journey, or maybe you want a way for people to find out more about the content you create on YouTube or Twitch. Maybe you just like watching other people and seeing their journey. Either way, I thoroughly recommend checking out ClipThat. These guys have created a social media platform tailored for the gaming space and are about to launch on iPhone and Android, but you can check them out at clipthat.co.uk. Anyway guys, that's all from me. Thanks again for checking out the video, and you may see me again soon. Peace.